This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, hello, hello. It's Jeff Carter. Welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, May 13th, 2013. You know, I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to. You know, they're forcing me to do a video on this event. I don't want to do it. Fuck this. No, fuck. Fuck this. No. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. You can't make me do it. Oh, yes, I can. Ow, 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 ow. For hockey pucks. Fine, I'll do it. Anyway, the Leafs have just clinched the North Division, which is great. Now that, there's no one seed in the North, and they have a decent chance to get to the Stanley Cup semifinals if they get through the divisional rounds. Okay, of course, they have to deal with other Canadian teams, but you'll see one Canadian team in this Final Four. But, of course, COVID problems abound. So, anyway, let's talk about the Leafs in 2013. They were a decent bunch. I mean, the Leafs of 2013 weren't that bad. I mean, when you look at their roster, it tells a story. So, let's see here. Now, the 2012-13 season was dangerous because of the lockout that almost ruined the season and canceled it for the second time in 8 years. But thankfully, though, it didn't. So we have 48 games due to a lockout. This COVID season has been 56, so it's higher. All that the Leafs could only play teams from their own conference. So they didn't face teams like Detroit, Chicago, or Los Angeles, St. Louis, and all of them. The Leafs ended up being 26, 17, and 5, fifth in the conference, which was amazing. And yes, they went through the 1 through 8 conference thing. It was shocking because the Leafs have finally made the playoffs for the first time since 2004. That friggin' lockout was the worst possible thing for a Leaf fan because it ruined the Leafs' playoff streak. And if, the Leafs, after 2006, how the heck did they not get to the playoffs and all that? I'll tell you what, 2007, they were actually a point out of 8th place in the conference, which the New York Islanders won that place. Worst of all, even though the Leafs beat the Habs on the final game of the season, they had to hope that the Devils would beat the New York Islanders in any form, even in the overtime/shootout. And the Leafs would have been the 8th against the Buffalo Sabres. But, of course, the Leafs sucked in Buffalo anyway, so basically, it was just going to be an easy peasy lemon squeezy thing. But at least the Leafs make the playoffs. But no! Wade fucking Duplitz with his heroics, and the Islanders got their butts handed to them by Buffalo in 5 games. Funny story, though. The day after that Islanders game was my 22nd birthday? Yeah, that's right. And then I went to the Jays game against the Royals on my birthday. My brother and my dad accompanied me. So anyway, the Leafs in 2007 just sucked. And it was close. And then some guy had the gall to wear a New York Islanders jersey. And the fans at Skydome just booed the crap out of him. Anyway, the Leafs were rebuilding and such. The worst part was 2010 when the Leafs were actually second last in the NHL and would normally have had the second overall pick in the draft. But thanks to them trading away 2 first-round picks to Boston for one Phil Kessel, which actually worked out in a sense, but the first-round picks were terrible. Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton. Boston picked in the first round. So anyway, the Leafs would struggle along. But somehow, in some way, they shocked a lot of people and got in. They would end up 5th place in the conference with 57 points. It was a tight race. 8th place was 55 points. So the Leafs could have been in 8th place. Now, the Leafs were hoping for a Boston win over Ottawa on the final day of the hockey season, because that meant the Leafs would have faced the Habs in the playoffs. No, then that would have meant Boston would have won the Northeast, get the 2 seed away from Montreal, and then, of course, Montreal had forced to play Toronto number 5, and it would have been a playoff series for the ages, especially for the old school Leaf fans. But, of course, Boston lost, so Montreal got the 2 seed and would take on Ottawa. The 2013 playoffs were big. Pittsburgh won. Ottawa came from freaking nowhere as the 7th seed to take down Montreal. The New York Rangers would beat the Washington Capitals, even though that the Capitals won in the Southeast. And the Leafs would play the Bruins in Game 7. So let's look at the 2013 Leafs, especially in their playoff runs. They had James Van Riemsdyk. They had Cody Franson, Phil the Frail Castle, Jake Gardiner, Joffrey Lupo, Nazem Kadri, Neon Dion Clark MacArthur Park, Miguel Grabowski, Matt Fratan, Tyler Bozak, Mark Frazier, Ryan Hamilton, Nikolai Kulemin, Carl Gunnison, J.M. Lyles, Colton Orr, Jay McClellan, Ryan O'Byrne, Leo Komarov, Fraser McLaren, Mike Koska, and Joe Coburn. And in the net, a young optimist rhyme by the name of James Reimer, who was one of the best goalies around, the best young goalies. Ben Scrivens would be his backup. So yeah, the Leafs made a massive move. Before the 2013 deal, trading away their number 5 pick from years before, Luke Schenn, to Philly for James Van Riemsdyk. They would also get rid of Jonas Gustafsson to Winnipeg. And then after the 2013 season, they traded Scrivens for Jonathan Bernier for a better goalie in a sense. So the Leafs looked decent. They had a decent team in 2013. But then, for the want of everything else, they took on the Boston Bruins. In 2013, I had one of the best pick-em years in the NHL playoffs of all time. 13-2, or 12-3, if you will. Technically, I have, by some sources, said Montreal over Ottawa, and then I said Ottawa over Montreal. But my official pick was Ottawa versus Montreal, and I might have slipped up making that pick. So basically, I call it 13-2. It's hard to do anyhow. So be quiet. So anyway, the 2013 playoffs came, Leafs and Bruins. As a Leaf fan, you gotta be thinking, yay, this looks good. And then you got the New York Rangers, my second team, dual fan citizenship. Thinking, well, the Rangers somehow will beat Washington. They did last year. So I was going with double hopes. Of course, I decided to say, you know what? The Leafs haven't been in the playoffs for a long time. Boston looks good, and Boston. And I didn't really pay too much attention to this, but I'm like, Boston's strong. Somehow, in some way, Boston's going to get to the Stanley Cup final because of the fact of Boston Strong, the Boston Marathon thing. I remember in March 2013, as part of my grandmother's birthday celebrations down in Oakville, that I told my Uncle Glenn, who's a diehard Bruins fan, I said, you know, Boston might do well. Oh, no, that was 2011. Sorry, that's a different story. Fuck me. Regardless, I said the Leafs are going to get taken out by the Bruins in 6 games. And they said, what are you doing? You're a Leaf fan. And I said, well, I have to be realistic here. My picks are supposed to be realistic. So after a few cough-ups, after only one cough-up in the 2013 playoff round so far, I was watching on May 13, 2013, I was switching between the Rangers-Caps game on TSN and the Leafs-Bruins on CBC. I actually was shocked that when the Leafs came back from 3-1 down to force a Game 7, it was like, wow, maybe the Leafs might do it, and prove me wrong. People were like, well, if the Leafs win, you'll have to eat crow. And I said, yeah, of course. I'll take every hit I can get. But then again, I have my feelings. But then, so I was like, do I watch the Leaf game or do I watch the Ranger game? So I decided, I'll watch the Rangers Caps and see what happens. And if the Rangers are starting to slip up, then I'll switch to the Leaf game. So I watched Rangers Caps that night, and the Rangers were beating up on Washington. I was like, whoa, oh my gosh. And then I'm thinking, okay, Rangers win Game 7. If the Leafs win, oh my God, it's Leafs-Rangers second round. Oh my gosh. Then who do I pick? But then again, TSN, James Duffy breaking and saying Leafs are up 4-1, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, 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 oh my gosh. So anyway, the Leafs were up 4-1. Rangers were pounding the Caps. So I'm like, I'll probably just watch the end of the Leafs game. And then I watch it. As soon as I watch it, the Leafs blow that 4-1 lead. And it's 4-4. And I'm just stunned silence. It's like, what the hell just happened? Wow. How do you blow a 4-1 lead in the third period? But then I'm like, well, I won't watch overtime. Maybe the Leafs will score in overtime. I mean, after all, they scored 4 goals when I wasn't watching. So I'm like, I'll flip it back. And hopefully the Leafs win in overtime. Big mistake. Boston, Patrice Bergeron. Now, I got to give Boston a lot of credit. I mean, they didn't give up after being down 4-1 thanks to a pair of goals by Cody Franson. But I'm like, oh my God. So, yeah, first playoff run for the Leafs in 9 years, and they lose in the first round. Although I called it, I felt guilty. Worst of all, the next day, I actually had to go to Target employee orientation. That was the orientation to go into Target. Sellers, I lost my job with because they were sold off to Lord & Taylor, who didn't want to retain their leases. And so our store would become a Target because we were nearly a Walmart or maybe a Lowe's. But because we had a home renovation place nearby, and Walmart was just a few kilometers away. Basically, we were forced to be a Target. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my time at Target and all that. But at the end of the day, it closed down because they didn't want to stay in Canada. Well, kind of cowards and all that. It's all about the almighty dollar. And basically, I remember in 2015, the day of that announcement they were leaving Canada, I had to go to work later in the day, and I basically had the lunchroom, and I basically kicked a chair over and said, and that's how I didn't feel about that. 2 months later, I was out of a job, and lo and behold, I didn't realize that it would take me 4 years to find something else. But thankfully, though, my run of working at Sheridan Nurseries and then Shoppers Drug Mart and now Canadian Tire has actually given me purpose and things. But yeah. Now, I do know a certain person who actually was watching the game on TV and was waiting for a table at a bar and all that. They went to get to the bar for the game, and the Leafs ended up blowing the 4-1 lead to 4-4. So basically, yeah, there's a lot of bad stories about that, and Leaf fans just upset and all that. The Leafs would have another playoff drought, but the playoff drought actually came with a silver lining. We got the number 1 pick and got Austin Matthews, and he has been a dynamo. So yeah, it was all that bad, and hopefully the Leafs win the Stanley Cup. I know it's wishful thinking, but 54 freaking years without the cup, without even making the finals. Much more so. You gotta believe, like Tuck McGraw always says. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Ado.